Richard Morgan was one of the richest men in the country. He had everything: luxury cars, mansions, and businesses. But he often felt empty inside because he was not sure if his family truly loved him or if they only loved his money. One day, he decided to find the truth in a shocking way. Richard told his family that his kidneys were failing and he urgently needed a kidney transplant. Everyone in the family looked worried at first, but in their hearts, they all prayed that someone else would take responsibility. Richard secretly arranged medical tests for all his close family members to see if anyone was a match. When the results came back, Richard invited them all to his mansion. He looked at each of them and asked, "Who is willing to save my life?" His eldest son quickly said, "Dad, I wish I could, but I have big business meetings coming. If I fall sick, the company will collapse." His daughter replied, "I love you, father, but I am afraid of surgery. I cannot take the risk." His wife said, "Richard, I am too old to go through such an operation. I must stay healthy for the children." Even his younger brother made excuses about his weak health. Richard listened silently as excuse after excuse filled the room. His heart broke. He realized that none of them were ready to sacrifice for him. They loved his wealth but not him. Later, Richard called the doctor privately and smiled. His kidneys were perfectly fine. This had only been a test of love and loyalty. Sadly, his family had failed. Richard decided to change his will. Instead of leaving billions to his greedy relatives, he gave most of his fortune to charity and to those who truly cared. His final lesson was clear: true love is shown in sacrifice, not in words. Richard Morgan, a powerful billionaire, suddenly announced to his family that he was suffering from kidney failure. He told them he urgently needed a donor or his life would end soon. His family looked shocked, but deep inside, each one of them thought about how this would affect their own lives. Richard's eldest son, David, was the first to speak. He said, "Dad, you know I love you, but I cannot do this. I have big business deals waiting, and if something happens to me during surgery, our company will lose everything." His daughter, Emily, stepped forward next. She held her father's hand but quickly pulled back. "Father, I'm sorry. I'm too scared of surgery. I cannot risk my life on the operation table. I hope someone else will help you." Richard's wife, Margaret, spoke with a soft voice but a firm excuse. "Richard, I wish I could, but I am already weak. If I fall sick, who will look after the children and manage the house?" Finally, his younger brother, Charles, shook his head. "I have health issues, Richard. My heart is not strong. The doctors will never allow me to donate." One by one, every close relative made excuses. Not a single person was willing to step forward and show true love. Richard sat silently in his chair, his face pale, but not because of sickness, because of heartbreak. Later, when he was alone, Richard whispered to himself, "So this is the truth. They enjoy my money, my houses, and my gifts, but when life asks for sacrifice, they give me excuses instead of love." That night, he realized that real family is not built by blood, but by the willingness to stand beside you in pain. His wealth could buy everything, but not genuine care. After hearing endless excuses from his family, Richard Morgan, the billionaire, felt completely broken. He sat alone in his mansion, wondering if anyone truly cared for him. His children avoided him, his wife stayed in her room, and his brother never called again. Everyone acted as if nothing had happened, as if his sickness was not their problem. One evening, while sitting in the garden, Richard noticed one of his servants, a young man named Samuel, quietly watering the plants. Samuel was poor, living in a small room at the back of the mansion. His salary was tiny compared to the billionaire's wealth, but he always remained loyal and respectful. Samuel saw Richard looking weak and sad. With courage, he walked closer and asked softly, "Sir, are you all right?" Richard smiled bitterly and replied, "No, Samuel. My family refuses to help me. I am dying slowly." Samuel was silent for a moment, then said words Richard never expected. "Sir, I don't have much in life. But if my kidney can save you, I will gladly give it." You once gave me food when I was starving, and now it is my turn to give you life." Tears filled Richard's eyes. He could not believe that a poor servant, who had nothing, was ready to sacrifice everything. Meanwhile, his own family, who lived in luxury because of him, had abandoned him. For the first time, Richard felt real love, not from blood relatives, but from a humble heart. At that moment, he understood the meaning of true loyalty. Richard held Samuel's hand tightly and whispered, "You have given me more than anyone else ever has. Not your kidney, but your heart." That night, Richard made a big decision. He promised himself that if he lived, his wealth would go to people like Samuel, those who showed kindness without expecting anything in return. Richard Morgan was not really sick. His kidneys were perfectly healthy. The news of his kidney failure was nothing but a plan. He wanted to test his family, to know if they truly loved him or only his money. For many years, he had doubts. His children were always busy with business and parties, his wife cared more about luxury than his health, and his brother only came to him when he needed financial help. So Richard created a test of loyalty. He told his family that he needed a kidney urgently. Then he secretly arranged medical tests for all of them. The reports showed that several members were healthy enough to donate, but no one stepped forward. Instead, they gave excuses. Too busy, too scared, too weak. Each excuse hurt him more than a knife. After listening quietly, Richard gathered everyone in his grand living room. His voice was calm but heavy with pain. "I am not sick," he said slowly. "My kidneys are perfectly fine. This was never about surgery. It was a test not of blood, but of love." The room fell silent. Shock spread across their faces. His son looked down, his daughter started to cry, and his wife turned pale. They realized they had failed completely. Richard stood up and looked at them one by one. "You enjoy my money, my houses, and my gifts, but when I asked for life, you gave me excuses. Now I know the truth." No one dared to speak. Shame filled the air. For the first time, Richard saw his family clearly, not as loved ones, but as strangers who valued wealth over love. That night, Richard decided he would never trust their fake affection again. His family had lost his respect forever. After the shocking test, Richard Morgan felt more lonely than ever. His family, whom he trusted for years, had failed him. They had chosen comfort and excuses over love and sacrifice. He realized that if they could not give him a kidney, they would never protect his legacy after his death. One morning, Richard called his lawyer, Mr. Harris, to his private study. The lawyer was surprised when Richard said, "I want to change my will completely. My family no longer deserves my fortune." Richard explained everything, how he pretended to be sick, how his family refused to help, and how only his poor servant Samuel had shown true loyalty. The lawyer listened carefully, then nodded. "Very well, Mr. Morgan. Tell me what you wish." Richard smiled sadly. "I want my wealth to go to those who understand sacrifice. Half of my fortune will go to hospitals and orphanages, where lives can truly be saved. The other half will go to Samuel, the servant who offered me his kidney without hesitation." Mr. Harris was shocked but deeply moved. He prepared the new will at once. When Richard signed the papers, he felt peace in his heart. For the first time in years, he was free from fear that his money would be wasted on selfish relatives. A few weeks later, his family gathered again, expecting to hear about his will. They thought they would inherit billions. But when the lawyer read the document, their faces turned pale. Not a single child, not even his wife, had been given a share. Instead, Samuel stood in the corner, stunned, as he learned he would inherit more than he could ever imagine. Richard's final words in the will were simple but powerful. "Those who refuse to give life shall not inherit wealth." True love is shown in sacrifice, not in excuses. After the will was changed, Richard Morgan felt lighter. For many years, he had lived surrounded by luxury and family, but he now understood that wealth cannot guarantee true love. His own children, wife, and brother had all failed to show sacrifice when he needed it most. This painful truth became the greatest lesson of his life. One evening, Richard sat with Samuel, the loyal servant who had offered his kidney. They shared tea in the garden. Richard looked at him and said, "Samuel, you have taught me something my family never could. Real love is not proven by words or gifts. It is proven when a person is ready to give, not take." Samuel was humble and replied, "Sir, I never thought about money or reward. I only thought about saving your life, because you once saved mine by giving me work and food when I had nothing." Richard smiled. He finally understood that true loyalty comes from the heart, not from blood relations. Family ties mean nothing if there is no sacrifice. From that day, Richard decided to live differently. He reduced his time at business meetings and instead focused on helping poor families, building schools, and supporting hospitals. He wanted his wealth to bring light where there was darkness, not greed where there was already plenty. News of his decisions spread quickly, and people began to respect him not only as a billionaire, but as a man with a wise heart. His own relatives, who once waited for his death to inherit billions, now felt ashamed whenever they looked at him. Richard's final words to them were simple: "Money can buy houses, cars, and comfort, but it can never buy love. Sacrifice is the only true measure of care." That became his lasting lesson, the truth that changed his life forever. Months later, Richard Morgan's health began to weaken, not because of kidney failure, but simply because of old age. His family, unaware that he had already changed his will, started showing fake concern again. They visited him more often, brought him gifts, and pretended to care. In their hearts, they were only waiting for the day he passed away so they could inherit his billions. Finally, the day came. Richard died peacefully in his sleep. The news spread quickly, and within hours, his relatives filled the mansion. They wore black clothes, cried loudly, and acted heartbroken, but deep inside, their minds were on the fortune he had left behind. A week later, everyone gathered in the lawyer's office for the reading of the will. Richard's children sat proudly in the front row. His wife lifted her chin with confidence, and his brother whispered to others about how they would soon be richer than ever. The lawyer, Mr. Harris, opened the will and began to read. The room went silent. Slowly, the truth was revealed. Richard had left nothing to his family. Instead, he had donated half of his wealth to charity, to hospitals, orphanages, and schools. The other half was given to Samuel, the poor servant who had offered his kidney without hesitation. Gasps filled the room. His son jumped up and shouted, "This must be a mistake." His wife cried, "How could he betray us like this?" But Mr. Harris calmly read Richard's final message: "Those who refuse to give life shall not inherit wealth. Only the one who showed love without greed shall be my true heir." Tears rolled down Samuel's face. He never imagined he would inherit billions, but for him, the real reward was Richard's trust. The greedy relatives left the room in silence, their dreams destroyed. And so, Richard's last act became his greatest lesson. True love comes from sacrifice, not from blood or wealth. This story shows us one truth: money can buy comfort, but it can never buy love. Real family is not the one that shares your blood, but the one that is ready to sacrifice for you. If this story touched your heart, give it a like, share it with others, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more emotional and life-changing stories. Your support means everything, and together we can spread lessons that the world needs to hear.